You should always just say no. Just say no. Ain't that about a bit? Nancy Reagan was the one that came up with that whole campaign. She coined that phrase all her own, putting out commercials and pushing it into schools and stuff like that. And obviously that's good, you know what I mean? You don't want the youth to get it flucked up at all, like getting high is cool, and that's a big problem nowadays and has been in the past, but it really is nowadays. We'll get to that. But during the Reagan administration, D-Rugs were sold and put right in the hood, and the whole crack boom happened on purpose. Y'all seen Snowfall, right? All to fund an illegal war, and it's just a trip, man, that happened during Reagan's whole cabinet. Members in the cabinet actually were given time and then pardoned out of their sentences when Bush Sr. was in office, I believe. But hey, you know, that's how it goes. Politicians, rich, do what they want. Poor people go to prison for the same ish, and the world keeps spinning. But just say no. We're talking about D-Rugs, specifically in the rap game, and rappers who have passed away at the hands of D-Rugs. This was recently shared by the media, and I thought, let's talk about it, man. So hit the button, sub up. This is Coffee. Thank you for tuning in. Hit the comments. As always, that's the most important part over here, is chopping it up with y'all, the people. So getting right into it, the first rapper who passed away at the hands of D-Rugs that we're speaking of today is Lil Peep. Now, some people might be like, who is Lil Peep? Not really my type of music or nothing like that. But when I was talking about the youth being influenced more than ever to do D-Rugs, there really was a campaign pushed, in my opinion, as when I was coming up. Comment if y'all remember this. Don't get me wrong, people have always partied and all that, but within the rap game, like, you was a bass head if you were getting high, right? Individuals might have been talking about hustling and all that, and don't get me wrong, there was a few rappers here or there that talked about it in their lyrics, but for the most part, I remember, like, anything outside of smoking some weed or drinking, you were a bass head, a bass face. It was goofy, corny, you know what I mean? It didn't more start till later on with the whole pill pop swag thing taking over, and you know, Lil Peep ended up being down the road in the, I guess you would say, SoundCloud era of hip hop, and it was totally different. You know, he went and willingly lived on Skid Row and talked all about doing D-Rugs all throughout his music, like it's the ish, like it's nothing but the coolest. And he got popular, started touring, and was DEAD with the quickness. I believe it was in 2017. He was only in his 20s, 21 years old, gone, not here anymore. Ish is absolutely crazy, but there's a lot of youth that still follow Lil Peep like he's Jesus or something like that, and try and emulate him, walk in his footsteps, go take pictures where he was at before, and live his lifestyle like it's all cool, you know, like just live for today, F tomorrow, let's get high, fuck it, let's be homeless. I don't know, it's all the same, shame and sad, if you ask me, as even though, like, I don't really rock with his music like that, and some people might even say this dude ain't a rapper. That's up to y'all, you know what I mean? We're more talking about the death and destruction that comes with getting high in this video. But I feel like if this dude was still here, he wouldn't want to be pushing people to live that lifestyle anymore. And it shocks me so much that the youth and fans that follow him don't see, like, man, we thought dude was dope, but his choices and lifestyle brought him to death quick. If you haven't seen, there's footage of this. There's the 911 call. You can actually see dude deceased in one of the videos, and a dude that I believe was acting as his manager said he was cold. He was in the back of the tour bus doing crunches and all this ish when he called in 911. Prior to it, he was telling the fans, like, oh yeah, he's been in here getting focused, doing push-ups, chilling, let's go wake him up. And you see him just slumped DEAD and the 911 call, they talked clearly about how he's cold. It was all flucked up, man. Then we got the legendary ODB, Dirt McGirt, Big Baby Jesus, Osiris, Asan Unique. The aliases go on and on, from the legendary Wu-Tang Clan. How happy was I to see them get their story told on Hulu, man. What a great series what that was. Tap in and comment and let me know if you rocked with the show, if you thought it was lit. I was hearing some talks of Naughty by Nature getting their story told in a similar way, and I'm all for it, for these rappers' stories to be told. I feel like a series is more the way to go. We saw with the Tupac movie, so much got left out. But ODB, dude was wild. A lot of people would be like, man, it don't shock me one bit that this man was getting high. But he got in some legal trouble. There was a point in time he was on the run. If I recall correctly, he popped up at some award show right around 2000 where the Wu didn't even know he was going to be there. But he had to go do his time. He did 2 years, and he came home in 2004 and signed with The Rock and passed away in November of 2004 in a recording studio. And comment anyone out there if you know if that Osiris LP that he was working on did I know it ended up getting dropped at some point, not through Rockefeller. I feel like his estate or his family ended up putting the project out on their own. But I was also surprised to hear that he had a reality show that was supposed to come out on Spike Network as well. I don't know if that ever happened, but that would have been pretty fucking cool. But ODB was in the studio getting it in. He had a long history of getting high and all that, and they found tramadol, which is a synthetic painkiller, which I believe isn't on the market anymore. I'm not 100% on that, but I think so, as if you take too many opiates or whatever, it can cause distress on your respiratory system. I'm sure if anyone's overdid it themselves, they may have experienced that where it feels like labored breathing. Leave it in the comments if you're familiar with that, if you've been there, any experiences you want to share, and once again your thoughts on all this. But he also had that chi and the yayo, get the yayo in his system as well, messing with them uppers, downers, and he passed away, just collapsed while recording. R.I.P. ODB. Then the next DEATH just happened a couple years ago, man, and it's kind of a name that's a blast from the past, but he definitely had some bangers, had some hits under his belt. A lot of people are going to say, of course, Gangsta's Paradise, but you could even go before that with some of the stuff he had with the Mad Circle and, Coolio, man. Sad to see him pass away. He had just been active in the blogosphere too right at that time, calling out this sick sack-ish YouTuber, the wicked Jeffrey Maustein, who he had collabed with, only to find out that dude had some sick weirdo charges under his belt. And it went a step even further than that, because Coolio just didn't collab with him. He had a rapport with him in real life, and actually word was that Coolio's sister was involved in the real estate game in Vegas and helped the wicked Maustein get into a community, as I don't know how that dude ain't in jail, you know what I mean? Because he's a registered ex-offender, but was not registered within the state he was living in and all that. I don't know. It's a whole mess, man. Burn in hell, you wicked demon, you sick bastard, you all them nasty ex-offenders out there. But Coolio wasn't about to have a tarnish on his jacket, on his image, as he took to the blogosphere to make it clear to everyone that he had no idea about none of this, and he wasn't flucking with dude at all. R.I.P. Coolio. He, had just out of nowhere, it came out that he had passed away. And again, this was just a couple years ago. Reports were that he was at someone's crib, went into the bathroom, and ended up passing away in there, if I remember correctly. And after his passing, it came out that he had that Fenty Wididididop, that H juice, and some death in his system. I don't know if this was from synthetic pills that had this stuff in it or all that or what. As I forgot to mention with Lil Peep, that was the deal with him. He got hit with some fake Xans that had the Fenty in it. And Coolio, he had these D-Rugs in his system. I don't know what the deal was, if he was knowingly doing all this stuff or not, but that's something else that's changed that goes on these days, is that these synthetic toxic poisons of D-Rugs out there are just normally a cocktail of fake garbage. It's different than it used to be back in the day. That's why whenever this topic comes up, I always urge everyone to get clean sooner rather than later. Or if you have a loved one who's flunking around, try to talk to them about making a change sooner rather than later. Go get on Suboxone or some kind of maintenance program, or do something, because you will DIE sooner rather than later. This ain't the old days where people can experiment with things and move on in life and transition through different phases of their life. No, you can try something for the first time in DIE. That could always happen. R.I.P. Len Bias. Some say that wasn't his first time, but the point is it's not like that could just happen on a humbug these days. That will happen. It happens all the time because there's this poison out there. Just like I was talking in the beginning of the video about Nancy Reagan and the just say no thing, and how crazy it is what went on while her husband was president under his administration. There's some wild ish going on since this Fenty Wap has become what it has become, because never in the history of business did it ever make sense, hey, let's kill off all the customer base. You know what I'm saying? There's something wild going on behind all this ish. And my bad, y'all, ODB was, I think, 35. Coolio was in his late 50s. And this next rapper just died a couple years ago as well. We're talking about the late, great DMX, who passed away at the age of 50. And it was never no secret. X always let everyone know, you know what I mean, about slipping and the struggle and the fact that he was smoking that hard, that credited it. You know what I mean? He let everyone know that he got into that ish at a young age. Someone gave him a lace blunt and he developed a taste for the demon. And, he struggled with it his whole life. After the fame, during the fame, before the fame, it never changed with X. But it was kind of scary in 2016 where, reports came out that he got Narcaned back to life, and some people saw him sniffing something up in a car. I think it was in New Jersey or New York, but when I heard that, it's like, wait, was X out here flucking with the opiates too and got a dose of that toxic poison, that Fenty? I mean, you don't get Narcan back from smoking the hard. It's different. But when he passed away, he was in a vegetative state and everyone was praying and all that. But unfortunately, X was not coming up out of that. And we found out that he had smoked some uppers or whatever, and, had a cocaine-induced heart attack. And once you're out of commission like that, it only takes 5 or 6 minutes or something like that before you start having damage to your brain when it's deprived of oxygen. And after that too, there was debates about what else was in DMX's system. There's been varying reports that have came out, if there was an autopsy or what exactly the results were, as this was back when it all went down. As the world continues the mourning, the DEATH of DMX, more info about the rapper's tragic OD and resulting heart attack is coming to light. Here are more details on X's COD. And this was an update July 8, 21. A just published report in Vulture now states that X died from a, quote, cocaine-induced heart attack that caused a lack of blood circulation to his brain, citing a source from the Westchester County Medical Examiner's Office. This partially coincides with earlier info on the rapper's COD, though other lethal agents like Fenty and alcohol were not mentioned previously. The same source also claimed that an autopsy was never conducted despite earlier reports to the contrary. And Irv Gotti, who just passed away, who you remember 50 Cent was smoking the herb pack right after his passing, and then how crazy was it to see Irv and Ja going back at it just over a couple of days ago. But he spoke up about X's passing, as like we said, there was a lot of disputed stuff going back and forth. But it says, sadly, X COD could have been prevented and appears to have been triggered by lethal concoction of RUGS, alcohol, and that sickness. Digital music news has now learned that XOD was likely prompted by multiple toxins, including the hard, the ultra potent Fenty, and unknown quantities of both alcohol and pills. No mention of exactly what kind of pills, or the Fenty happened from him knowingly doing it, or it was in some ish or what. But like we said, Irv Gotti spoke about this and people were not happy. Irv, who had a lot to do with X really blowing up, he was in the Get At Me Dog video and all that. He says they said it was a bad dose of CRACK, and they said some Fenty was mixed in with the hard, and that's what made him OD. And he also said when he got to the hospital, he got diagnosed with the sickness and couldn't breathe. You know that the sickness messes with your respiratory system. So that's why he had to get hooked up to the ventilator. And before they connected him to the ventilator, they was like, he's brain dead. They said even if he comes through, there's a good chance he's going to be brain dead. Once they said that, I was like, I don't want to see X like that. If he comes back, I don't want him to come back. I want him to come back and be X. If he's going to be brain dead and a vegetable, I don't want to see him like that. You know what I'm saying? I think when it got down to it, he couldn't survive without being off that machine. He's gone. And you know, unfortunately, that's what it was from Jump Street, and it was sad. A lot of people, I think, were holding on to false hope, and his family had to make that hard decision to pull the plug. But you know, people weren't happy that Irv was talking about this. And you know what's wild too? Comment if you guys rocked with that last album that came out after X's passing. I thought it was actually pretty good. Swizz, I believe, executive produced it, but Dame Grease, who also was a longtime collaborator with X, he said he had a whole album's worth of material as well, but you know, it never came out. Maybe we'll see that ish drop someday. But man, so sad for X to be gone and to pass away in, you know, the circumstances in which he did. You know what I'm saying? But X, once again, was never shy about sharing about his struggles. You know what I mean? So learn from the dark man and leave darkness and the RUGS alone. Then we got Gangsta Boo, who very recently passed away. I think just a little over a year ago. She was only in her 40s. And when it came to her, word was that she had Fenty and cocaine in her system. So I don't know if she got some tainted yayo. But you see the reports, rap pioneer Gangsta Boo died after consuming a cocktail of hard RUGS and alcohol. So having some drinks, as well as back when I used to get my party on, I used to drink all the time, mixing it with all kinds of substances, even though, you know, that is not good to do. It intensifies the effects of things. But Fox in Memphis said that the autopsy report for Gangsta Boo states she died from an accidental OD brought on by Fenty, yayo, and booze. And you know, word was she had went out and you know, got it in. And Lola Mitchell was her real name. She was found unconscious on New Year's Day inside a Memphis residence, and despite efforts to revive her, she was pronounced dead on the scene at the young age of 43. R.I.P. Gangsta Boo. Then we got Juice WRLD, another rapper who came out of that SoundCloud era as well, and he was wild young to pass away. at the end of, what was it, 2019. You guys remember the whole situation. He was aboard a plane and they got knocked with some RUGS, and like they were gonna stop the plane, like search the plane, and I don't know why he just didn't get arrested and lawyer up. Like, you know, you're rich, you're successful. He got shook and ate the pills, which was codeine and oxycodone, aka Percocet, and you know, he passed away. It was some extra sad-ish, just like Mac Miller. He was, I think, only like 21 years old or something like that as well. Very, very young, or maybe he was a little older than that. Mac Miller, R.I.P. to him. You know, he was 26, and it was wild, man, because this is one of the cases where we saw people pay the piper, as 3 people were brought to justice. He was another one who got some fake pills that had Fenty in it. You know what I mean? And that was something too, to show that these things are everywhere. Even rappers that got the money to pay for good drugs can get dosed with this ish. And that's exactly what happened to Mac just a few years back. Also, at the young age of 26, man, Mac was nice with it. I thought he was dope. Comment your thoughts about Juice WRLD and Mac Miller and their music and their legacy. One half of the legendary duo out of Texas, Pimp C, man. You guys remember the way Pimp went off back in the day, dissing everybody, Jeezy, all the ish going on in the South. Pimp C didn't pull no punches. I always say, man, it'd be wild to see what it would be like if Pimp were still alive today. But he passed in 2007. He had just did some time a couple of years before all that, when Texas was really blowing up on the mainstream, and Bun B had been doing this thing as a solo artist. But you know, Pimp C came home and got back to work, dropping a solo project. Remember that, Knocking Doors Down? He was talking about all the beef and, you know, making everyone squash the issue and have Texas move as a solidified unit rather than being out here beefing with each other. And there's been a lot of conspiracy theories over the years, you know, that people just didn't believe that Pimp passed away in the manner of which he did, being found deceased in a hotel room with lean in his system, which was no secret that he used it. But he also was said to have sleep apnea being a contributing factor to his passing as well. But there's been a lot of theories over the years where people have sworn they saw other varying reports coming out that he was killed, or they just believe some funny style stuff went on when it came to Pimp C passing away. Comment what you remember and what you think, and what you think of Pimp as an artist, and if you also think that the game is missing a real one like Pimp in this current climate of this blogosphere era that we live in, to set things straight. Another rapper who passed away pretty recently, not even a full year ago, man, is Rich Homie Quan, who passed away at 34 years old and was said to have a whole slew of drugs up in his system. And I remember right away when the circumstances of his death were reported, I knew it was some drugs, man. But see the reports, man. Rich Homie Quan died from an accidental OD, and the medical examiners in Georgia confirmed it. They said the Qantas Devontae Lamar had, which is, you know, his government name, he had a whole slew of drugs up in his system. Fenty, Alprazolam, which is a generic Xanny, codeine, and promethazine, you know, so the lean. And, you know, he was mixing a lot of stuff together and had been partying a lot of his life, and it caught up to him. It said Quan showed no signs of trauma when his body was found. His brother told police that he thought Quan was asleep on the floor by the kitchen before he picked up the rapper and put him on the couch, saying it was, quote, very unusual to see food still in his mouth. And that was crazy to me. Like, yo, dude, like, food in his mouth, that's bad. And I hope he called the authorities right then and there. But man, it was sad, man. R.I.P. Rich Homie Quan. And the last on the list, DJ Screw. We were just talking about Texas, and Screw passed away way back before Texas blew up on a mainstream level. Y'all remember that though? 05, 06, the way Texas took over the mainstream like a motherfucker. The whole Swisher House Collective and a lot of other artists. And, you know, lean was a big part of that culture, and, you know, the chopped and screwed, or screwed and chopped. And, you know what I mean? DJ Screw was one of the ones that was like the originator of all that. And he most definitely was drinking that lean. And, you know, that was what he passed from, among, I think, some health concerns as well that played a factor. But that's going to do it for this one. RIP to all these rappers. Say no to the RUGS, and let me know your thoughts, experiences in this kind of ish, or just what you think about the game and just everything we touched on when it comes to addiction and drug use and all that. It's Coffee. Thank you for tuning in. Subscribe. I look forward to talking to y'all in the comments. And I'm up out of here. Peace.